Is this Asad flanker better than the original? Let's find out and review Lattafa Asad Zanzibar. Yo, what's good guys? Hunter here and welcome back to the channel where I upload a weekly fragrance contest. So you know the drill. Hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future videos. And be sure to follow me over on my Instagram page. But today, we are reviewing another Lattafa fragrance. And guys, honestly, I've been addicted to this house and have been buying so many Lattafas lately. And this one in particular, I'm very excited to be reviewing because me personally, I'm a huge fan of the original Asad because it is very similar to Sauvage Elixir and I'm a big fan of that scent profile. This, however, is a pretty unique creation from Lattafa, but it does actually remind me of a fragrance that I've never seen nobody actually compare it to. So I'll tell you guys what fragrance that is a little bit later in the video. But before we go ahead and do that, let's go over some information. Now, Asad Zanzibar was actually launched in the beginning of 2024, so it is one of their newer fragrances from this house. For the retail price, only size this one comes in, which is the 100 ml, is gonna run you roughly around that $30 mark, maybe sometimes less, maybe sometimes more. And of course, I'll leave a tag on this video where you can find this particular fragrance at the best price. The concentration with this is an eau de parfum, so you are actually getting a highly concentrated fragrance, which is always good, especially for the price you're paying, because guys, back in the day, for around like a $30 fragrance, you would expect to get something like an eau de cologne, which is very weak and barely had any like perfume oil concentration inside of the fragrance. But guys, nowadays it's a completely different story. The perfumer behind Asad Zanzibar did surprise me because it's Fanny Bay, which is a master perfumer and has a huge catalog behind her resume. Most of the time with like Lattafas, etc., they don't usually list the perfumer, but they did get a good one to make this. With all the information out of the way, let's look at the packaging and presentation you get with this fragrance now. So take a look at the box, which is identical to the original Asad, but in blue, like this kind of navy blue style, and which I actually do like. It has, of course, eau de parfum Zanzibar 100 ml, Asad, Lattafa, and Arabic right there. On the bottom, you will have your barcode and batch code to authenticate product to see when it was produced. And then on the back, just some of your information and ingredients. But let's look at the bottle now. All right, take a look at the bottle, which is also, of course, identical to the original Asad, but rather than black, it comes in this blue, which looks nice. You also have this thing wrapped around the bottle, which does fall off sometimes, so be cautious of that, but it does go back on. Of course, Asad Zanzibar Lattafa. On the bottom, you will have your sticker with some information, nothing on the back. On top, you have the Lattafa logo, which actually does look nice. Nothing inside of the cap, nothing on the atomizer, and this does click into place very securely. But guys, to be honest, this is a very cheap filling plastic bottle, but it isn't the end of the day. In the top, you have lavender and black pepper. In the mid, you have coconut water, iris, and salt. And in the base, you have vanilla and incense, and this will be classified as a sweet, creamy. Now, let's spray this and test out these atomizers. Actually, a pretty good atomizer. I actually just got it all over me, so I'm gonna be smelling good. But let's go ahead and remind myself of Asad Zanzibar. So right away, this one does open up pretty spicy with the mixture of the aromatic lavender and that spicy black pepper note, which work perfectly together, especially when the lavender comes across spicy, which it actually does in here. This opening is just fantastic, guys. I'm not sure what's going on over at Lattafa, but they're pumping out banger after banger, man. Which is why this is without a doubt one of my favorite Middle Eastern houses, and especially at the prices you can get these for. But a little bit earlier, I did say this kind of reminds me of another fragrance, which I haven't seen anybody talk about, and that fragrance is Parfums Amali's Layton, which kind of actually makes sense looking at the bottle being blue, and it opens up with that lavender in here, kind of similar to the way Layton opens up with its lavender as well. Yeah, it definitely gives me a very similar vibe on a test strip, at least, because things absolutely change on skin. Because when I first got this in, sprayed it on clothes, sprayed it on a test strip, I was like, wow, this kind of reminds me of Layton. Kind of has that Vicks Vapor Rub opening from the lavender, but of course the apple note is missing from this, which is the signature of Layton. It's not a clone at all. Like, do not think this is a clone of Layton. It's not. Just that opening does have some similarities from the lavender. Only on a test strip though, because when you spray this one on skin, you don't really get that same kind of nuanced vibe. But if you do love something like Layton, which I do have right there, you probably will enjoy this because it's in a similar realm, being a lavender kind of spicy vanilla fragrance. You could almost say this is a tropical Layton as well. Once you make your way into the mid of Zanzibar is when you're gonna get this kind of salty coconut water vibe. And to my nose, guys, it does give a tropicalness to the DNA without a doubt, but it's more so of like the skin of a coconut where you have like the coconut hairs and etc. It's not really like a kind of a suntan lotion sort of coconut, which is great. I much prefer the way it's done in here. It's more so of like an earthy, slightly tropical, salty coconut mixed in with this earthy iris as well. The iris in here is a little bit powdery, but it doesn't go too much into that makeup waxy side of things, which is good. It's a earthy, powdery iris along with this salty coconut water, which is more so of the coconut skin, which I honestly wasn't expecting. When I read that note breakdown, I thought, you know, it's probably going to turn into like a suntan lotion fragrance. Most of the time when I see coconut, that's what I think immediately, but in here it's actually much different, and I think because they're using coconut water rather than just coconut. If you hate coconut fragrance because they go in that direction, do not be scared of Asad Zanzibar. And then finally making our way into the base of this one is where it actually changes a lot. This one does take you on a pretty pleasant journey because in the base it turns very warm, comforting from that vanilla, which is also spicy. It's definitely a spicy vanilla mixed in with this resinous, warm frankincense. I'm not so much getting a smoky incense, which is listed. It goes more so in the direction of a resinous, warm frankincense, almost like a churchy vibe rather than like a smoky vibe. Just a very resinous, creamy, warm, spicy base that you are going to be left with for hours with Zanzibar. And there's also another reason why it kind of reminds me of Layton because of that spicy, warm vanilla you get in here. I don't know if I'm just going crazy because I haven't heard anybody else compare this to Layton at all, but that's kind of just what I get to my nose. I'm curious what you guys think about that comparison as well if you have tried both of these. But once again, I'm not saying it's identical to Layton at all, just has a similar touch. Because at the end of the day, I almost think this is like a mixture of a bunch of fragrances, to be honest. It's not a clone of any one particular. Just an awesome scent profile that I fell in love with immediately when I got a bottle of it. Like I said earlier, guys, it does smell a little bit better on a test strip and clothes rather than skin, because on skin it brings out much more of this kind of burnt earthiness to the scent, which could be a little bit unpleasant to some. So I think this one is gonna have to sit for a little bit like most of the Lattafas, so it macerates, kind of gets a little bit more richer and smoother at the end of the day. So sometimes the Lattafas need that because they can come across a little bit chemically, but just know these always turn out so much better after sitting for a while. Still a banger at the end of the day though. So for the best seasons to rock Asad Zanzibar, if you do pick up a bottle, I think it is actually pretty versatile. A lot of people consider this one to be like a tropical summertime fragrance, but for me, I can actually picture wearing this one in a kind of attire I'm wearing now with this jacket in the colder like fall and winter, but definitely the spring and summer as well, which is always cool. Especially having a spicy, aromatic, vanilla, slightly resinous fragrance for the summertime. That's extremely rare, but something about it you can absolutely pull it off because the saltiness, the coconut water do take over quite a bit. For occasion, it is also pretty versatile where you can dress this one down because it has this kind of fun, playful such nature about it as well, mostly because of the tropical vibe. It also can be dressed up as well because of the aromatic spiciness to it as well too. So very versatile when it comes to the seasons and occasions. I can see this one being perfect for a date night situation without a doubt, man. Just because it's unique, very warm and sensual. It has a little bit of that saltiness sprinkled on top. So if you're taking her to go see Salt Babe and getting a nice steak, this is the fragrance to rock. For gender, I believe this is targeted towards men because they do also have a women's line in this bottle style called Yara with a bunch of flankers, but I would actually consider this one a unisex, leaning masculine at the end of the day because there's nothing ultra masculine about this. There's nothing really ultra feminine about this. I actually could picture a woman rocking this one flawlessly as well. Just because of the powdery iris, that tropical coconut, the saltiness, and that vanilla, a woman could wear this one if she really wanted to. So unisex, slightly leaning masculine, which I'm actually kind of curious about Yara by Lattafa in the pink bottle of this one. I might actually pick up a bottle of that if I ever come across it at like the rack stores. So if any ladies or anybody watching this one, leave a comment down below what you think of Yara. For age groups, I think this one is also versatile, guys. I know this is just a versatile fragrance at the end of the day. I can see somebody in the late teens, early 20s, mid 20s and up rocking this one, as well as maybe somebody 40 and up too because of the aromatic spiciness. So I can just see all ages really appreciating Asad Zanzibar. I know a lot of you guys hate when I categorize fragrances with age groups, but some fragrances usually do lean mature and some usually lean very youthful, but whatever I say doesn't mean you have to follow that or you can't wear a particular one, but that's just how it is, guys, with fragrances. And fragrances are one of the most subjective things in the world. Whatever I say or enjoy or hate, you guys might think the exact opposite, because these things aren't facts at the end of the day that I'm saying. It's all just my opinions and how I feel about each fragrance. But luckily, this one is very versatile with the age groups. Now, wrapping the review off, talking on the performance that you will get with Asad Zanzibar. And honestly, I always have high expectations from Lattafa, because when I think of Lattafa, I usually think of beast mode fragrances, because especially the original Asad was a monster, like almost nuclear performing fragrance. But of course, Sauvage Elixir also was, and it's very similar to that in the scent. However, things are a little bit different with this one here, guys, because from my testing on skin, at least, guys, obviously when you spray on clothes, it might last a little bit longer, but on skin, I got roughly around that 6-hour mark, which is definitely below average from my testing. I was a little bit disappointed with the performance from Zanzibar. I know also a lot of people complain about how this one performs, it's lackluster, etc. But I do know though, Lattafas do perform better after sitting for a few weeks, months, and maturing and macerating. So this one might actually start performing a little bit better maybe a month or so from now after it sits, because I just recently got this and sprayed it for the first time. But only time will tell if that's the case. But at this moment in time, guys, below average performance from the longevity side of things, and you guys probably will get the same if you buy a brand new bottle. And kind of the same situation with the projection as well. It's moderate projecting, which means people will smell you outside of your scent bubble, but it's not going to be a room filler, nuclear kind of a huge projector across the room like the original Asad was. But still, when you're walking around, you got that scent sillage behind you, people will come up to you, ask you what you're wearing, compliment you, and things like that. It's just not a beast mode fragrance like the original is, and the original was a beast mode right out the gate. Now that sucker is probably even stronger, but I haven't worn it in a while. So below average with the performance, which isn't necessarily the worst thing, but I was expecting a little bit better from being a Lattafa, and especially being within the Asad collection. That's gonna do it for my review of the new Asad Zanzibar. Let me know down below if you had the chance to try this one, if you had the chance to try the original Asad, and what are your thoughts on these ones? I'm very curious. But besides that, guys, leave a like, subscribe below if you haven't already, and of course, I'll catch all of you back here in my next upload. Take care, everybody.